en un lugar de La Mancha, de cuyo nombre no quiero acordarme.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good
Aujourd'hui,
fortune
maman est
must-
morte. Ou peut-être hier, je ne sais pas.
For audiobook publishers and platforms, a focus on production quality is an important way to maintain a competitive edge. Narration and sound design influence listener engagement, especially in developing markets. Welcome to The Spoken World. I'm Christopher Kenneally. The Spoken World podcast is sponsored by Penguin Random House Audio, the team behind some of the most talked about audiobooks in the industry. Juliana Rueda is an audiobook producer, director, and sound designer, and a leading voice in Spain's audiobook production community. She has helped drive the industry's growth as publishers invest to reach new audiences in Spain, across South America, and in the United States. The founder of Miutbooks, based in Barcelona, Juliana Rueda explains why accent and authenticity are both critical elements for Spanish-language audiobooks, especially when transforming first-time listeners into lifelong fans. Juliana Rueda in Barcelona, welcome to The Spoken World.
Thank you, Chris, for this invitation. I'm very thrilled to speak with you today.
Well, I'm looking forward to our discussion. The Spoken World is looking at the forces that shape the development of audiobook markets around the world. Producers like yourself contribute enormously to the conditions that lead to the growth of a thriving culture of listening. And since 2012, you've produced work for many top-selling Spanish-language audiobooks. So, Juliana Rueda, what for you defines a high-quality audiobook market?
For me, a high developed quality market is the one that has thrived their audiences to the listening experience of a book, like an audience that it's waiting for a book to come, an author to come in paper, ebook, and audio. It's a market that it's well developed because it has understood the importance of the three areas a book could live through. So for me, that is a market that has a healthy growth and that knows the importance of being available in the different areas.
And Juliana Rueda, so how do you rate the audiobook market in Spain for its quality level, for narration, for sound design, production standards, the kinds of things that really matter to you at your company?
For example, before I get into that part of the quality, the Spanish-speaking market is a market that still, it's very young, but we have seen in the last 2 years a growth that it's very, very interesting. Like we've grown in 24 at 37% of listeners. We have come from 12,000 audiobooks to almost 27,000 audiobooks. The Spanish market is the strongest one, like more than 50% is based in the Spanish-speaking territory of Spain. That, 27% comes from Latin America. But the main interest that we have seen in the last year is the point of the US Spanish-speaking market, that it's starting to become a very interesting point of action. So right now in the Spanish market in Latin America and Spain, the model has been subscription. So this model has built a way of producing audiobooks that sadly has been thrived by the budget, the costs. So quality, of course, it's something that some publishers have seen and understood because they are present in other countries. But as being a subscription model in a language, this has brought the main purpose of the publishers when they want to produce, it's the price. So this is what has become the precedent. We need to build a stronger catalog, a bigger catalog, but the budget has been something that it's becoming a precedent before we start producing. So I do believe that quality to create a culture of listening, it's very important. You need to engage the public. We are a young market. There's almost only 8% of the population that has listened to an audiobook. So the opportunity is huge. But if the experience of the listener is not good, we have a big percentage of failure to engage this new reader in a new format. So, of course, the challenge is an economic pressure because the market is growing, but the publishers don't see that price cannot be the only thing that matters, because even if we have amazing talents in Spain, we have a dubbing history that has created an amazing amount of actors, voice actors. But if the pressure is so huge, it's very complicated to bring these great talents to this new industry to be able to use them to create amazing stories. So we as producers have to play with new technologies, with way of productions, with a mixed way of producing in Spain and Latin America to be able to have this quality engagement in our roadmap.
And your education, your experience, Juliana Rueda, is in sound production, sound design. And tell me briefly about why that's important to you. You mentioned the availability of dubbing actors from the cinema. I think you bring a cinematic approach to your own work, don't you?
Sound design is something that it's beginning to be a thing that big platforms are seeing, that it has a very well acceptance from the public. But having a multicast sound design production is expensive. Of course, as more ingredients that you put in the mix, this could bring the cost higher. So if we are based, for example, the different type of productions that they are available, we have a one voice acting for a book. For me, it's very important to use actors because they are the ones that are able to create different atmospheres, different characters, like to really compile the storytelling into a wonderful acting. Children productions have seen the benefit of creating atmospheres that are recreating a stage for the kid to really imagine what is happening. And the engagement in little ones with a well-produced story, it's almost from beginning to end. Like children stay connected to the story if the production is well made. And also like big IPs for adults, like, I don't know, Sandman or Pride and Prejudice. These ones that are made by big platforms that have the budget behind them have seen that it is very appealing to new customers, to new listeners, to enter the format through these big cinematic productions. So depending on what you are looking for, you have to decide which way you want to produce your catalog. But the bigger the platform, because it's more into the platforms that are going through the sound design availabilities.
And what is the impact of investment in talent? And of course, there's a lot of different types of talent involved in audiobooks. The narrators, most obviously, but directors and sound engineers. How does all of that really matter for listener engagement?
If you think about the product as a whole, I think it's very important to invest in the different areas, because a lot of people think that reading a book is reading a book out loud, and it's the least of it. You need to understand where you are going to be. You are going to be inside the ears and the head of a listener. You need to understand all the little dynamics that happen through a book, and you have to make it alive through your voice. So having great talents that understand that they are not in the theater, they cannot shout, they cannot exaggerate, that they have to deconstruct a lot of things they have learned through their years of work to a new format. You have to have somebody, because all of the acting disciplines require a director. The actor needs somebody who takes another perspective of their work to make them work through the different dynamics of a book. So for me, it's very important to have a director that knows the book, that knows what's in play, like what it's there to be in stake, like what are the amount of grace that you can sum into an interpretation, the names, the foreign names, the multiple voices that come to life. So yeah, you do have to invest also in directors, but the publishers need to understand, because sometimes they say, yeah, with direction, and it's only a sound engineer that plays and pauses that hasn't read a book, or like you have to understand the difference of having somebody recording an actor or having somebody directing an actor. The editors, it's something that I have seen through the years, because it's not only a technical thing that when you edit a book, you need to have the sensibility of a musical narration that it's happening. You have to understand the pacing, the importance of leaving some breaths sometimes, what you need to take out, what you need to leave in. So the editing is not only a technical thing, but it's a mixture between like a literary energy that you have and a technical quality and skill that you need to have to edit fast, and because you do have to make the deadlines. So it's important that you have good and fast editors, and also to have proofers, that they understand that to proof a text with audio is different from only proofing a text, that you need to look for noises and cloth noises, mouth noises, characters that are not equal in all the chapters, things like that. Like you do need to create a talent for the type of work that you are doing. Like that's when people say, you read out loud and that's it. No, there are a lot of people involved in an audiobook. So for me, it's very important to create an ecosystem of professionals.
The Spoken World is sponsored by Penguin Random House Audio, the team behind some of the most talked about audiobooks in the industry. From standout fiction to culture-shaping nonfiction, they collaborate with top authors and world-class narrators to create audio that connects deeply with listeners and brings powerful stories to life. To meet the award-winning team and learn how to partner with them, visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com. Can you share any case studies when publishers in Spain have invested in the kinds of quality you're speaking about, Juliana Rueda, and seen long-term success?
I have seen in some of the books that I have published, for example, the book from Yuval Harari, Sapiens, was a top-selling book many, many years, that it was such a best-selling book that they decided to do it in two accents, the Latin American accent and the Spanish accent. Normally, that doesn't happen. Normally, the publisher decides on one accent for the book, but they invested in great actors for this because they knew this was a very important IP for their imprint. And they have seen the success on the sales, on that, the engagement. Also, what I have seen is, of course, authors are important, bestsellings are important, but I have seen also narrators are becoming a very special insight on when listeners decide what to listen next. So for me, a quality and in a long-term success is to invest in these good narrators to become a piece of the decision making of the listener, as we have in the States, the prizes, the Audis, these events that give a recognition to a great storytelling, I think it's very important because you dignify the profession. Like you give a spot to this good performance of the art of storytelling.
And do you have any data or do you have any trends you can cite that demonstrate that listener retention and loyalty, which is important to you, are linked to this quality production?
It's a pity because the data, the public data, it's very limited. Platforms don't usually share this retention of the user. I think that in a perspective that almost 88% of the listening market of audiobooks in the Spanish market is subscription. For me, I think if we don't have this data, the quality will become an asset of retention because people, if they know they are in a subscription model, if they don't like the book, they will jump to the other one. But I know that these platforms pay the publishers depending on the amount of minutes that the consumers use per book. So if the listening average is from beginning to end, this will become a stronger asset for the publishers' incomes. So yeah, for me, it would be important that the market itself makes it more like a norm to have this data from the platform because we only know that, for example, 8% of the population has listened to an audiobook over 14 years old. The biggest amount of age usage is under 35, 45 years old. This is very appealing. Normally, the books are read more by women, but the audiobooks are heard more by men. The percentage is low, but it's something to have in mind. If we see, of course, everybody sees the American market, the English market, that the percentage of user is over 50%, and the growth is billions and billions every year. We have to see why this culture has thrived so much during the years. And when we see that, I think it's because the high quality audio entertainment has grown since the day one. They really look for the narrators, for the storytelling, for a book that it's very well produced. Not only a good actor, but a well-recorded, no noises, no outdoor and no background noises. So this is what we need to see to try to repeat it as a young market that we are. Like to see how do we make our data and our percentage grow and see what has worked in Germany, in France, in the US. And if we see what has worked, it's a lot to do with that culture of good listening, not only budget.
And Juliana Rueda, you're speaking to me from your own studio in Barcelona. So I want to ask you about cultural context. And in Spain, how does cultural context shape listener expectations?
Well, it's not only Spain. As we are a Spanish-speaking market, the cultural insight really shapes the decisions to narrate in X or Y accent. So the cultural context is very important for the Spanish because we need to be sensitive in which accent the audiobook has to be recorded. What is the cultural background of that book or the author? What is the local identity of the book? In which territory these books works better? So publishers need to have this in their mind to know if they are making if they are willing to invest on their catalog in an audio imprint. You have to take this in mind because it will be important when you sell. Where is your author? Where is your biggest audience in your paper or your ebook? Try to go first in that territory with the audio. If your book is very, very well attached to the cultural heritage of the story, go for that accent, because that richness makes the experience better. Who is the listener? Where is my listener? Where is my audience? And have this in mind when you make the decision before you create your book. It's very, very important.
And you've already spoken about the financial challenges of working with publishers in this environment, but tell me about the challenges right now that publishers face when they try to measure the impact of high-quality productions.
One, I think the main restraint is that they don't have all the data. They know the age, the country, but for example, they don't know which genre works better, or which actor, or what it's the point where they lose all the listeners. Like, all of these would be very, very interesting to have, because that way you would be able to create your catalog depending on this data that it's working. So you need to know if the audiobook is performing well. You need your author to believe, your editor to believe that this format will be good for them. Now with AI, another opportunity opens, but there is a lot of rejection from the editorial perspective of AI is going to destroy everything. But I think from an editorial perspective, there is an opportunity, because the catalog in audio is still very small. So there is an opportunity to make it bigger. AI brings a possibility to play with your budget. But of course, there are a lot of grays in between. As with human production, you need to know what are the possibilities that you have in your hand right now and how to play with the different types of production, because not all the books, even in an imprint, have the same importance in the catalog. So the same as you treat your imprint in paper and ebook, you have to treat your imprint in audio. So that way, you know that you have 3 jewels that you know that sell like popcorn. Take a lot of care for that. But then you might have an AI solution that it's quality check, background with humans, good voices, for example, replica voices, that could give you the possibility to maybe produce 3 more that before weren't possible. So this could impact your catalog, bringing more titles, but always having in mind what you want to achieve, the same as you do with your imprint in paper and ebook. So have the audio in your head the same as you do with the other types of imprints.
Juliana Rueda, founder of Miut and Miutbooks in Barcelona. Thank you for speaking with me.
Thank you, Chris, for your invitation.
That's all for now. Our producer is Jeremy Brisky of Burst Marketing. Rob Simon is our executive producer. With support from Penguin Random House Audio, the Spoken World podcast covers the latest news in audiobook publishing and features exclusive interviews with audiobook industry leaders, analysts, and innovators. Learn more at spokenworld.media and subscribe on all major podcasting and streaming platforms. I'm Christopher Kenneally. Join me again soon on The Spoken World.